Hi everyone, I'm Celeste. Welcome to my booktube channel, A Reader's Almanac. Happy 2025. I can't believe the new year is upon us. Enjoyed the holidays very much. Hope you did too, but I'm kind of glad they're over and that we're starting a new year. So I thought I would just have a very casual, relaxed, chatty video with you today. Just, chatting about my goals, some of the things that I want to do a little differently in 2025, some of the things that will remain the same in terms of what I'll be reading and what's on my TBR, what challenges I'll be doing, and all of that. So sit back and enjoy yourself, and I hope you'll stick with me as I go through this. So one of the things I've decided for 2025 is actually to read less. Now that may come as sort of a surprise, but hear me out. Over the past 2 years, I've read scores and scores of marvelous books, and I've enjoyed them immensely for the most part. There were a few DNFs there, but for the most part, I really enjoyed them. And don't get me wrong, I love buying new, beautiful books and holding them up for you as much as the next person. That's one of the things that's so fun about booktube videos, isn't it? But it can get prohibitively expensive for sure. And I wasn't enjoying each individual read in terms of quality as much as for quantity. I felt like that's kind of where things were moving for me. So this year I am going to be paring that back a little bit, and I'm going to first tell you what my sort of system is, if you can even call it that, and some of the challenges that I'll be doing this year, which are mostly on my own. And then I am going to, at the end of the video, show you some of the books that I've chosen for the month of January, so stay tuned. Okay, so in the past I have shown you my white notebook, my infamous binder, which is just a plain white binder, but in it are all the lists of books that I'm interested in, all of the series that I follow and read, my favorite authors, things like that are what I keep in this notebook. And I went through it once, I think, with you to show you the Newbery Award winners. That was one category of reading that I like to do. I like to read the winners and the runners-up for the Newbery Award for children's literature. I've got all of the titles for Nancy Drew in here, which ones I have, which ones I'm still collecting. I've got a checklist for Miss Marple in here, Miss Silver by Patricia Wentworth, all of those. So what I decided to do was I took a piece of paper and I wrote down the titles of every book I know I want to read next in a series or from my regular roster of favorite authors. So for example, I know I want to read another Agatha Christie this year. I want to read another Miss Marple and continue in that series. I want to read a bunch more Nancy Drews, so I wrote those down. I wrote down some classics that I know I'm going to want to read, especially for Jane Austen July and for Victober, and a few American classics as well. And then, so all of my regular reads that I like to do every year. P.D. James, for example, I know I want to read another Inspector Dalglish, and I know I'm going to want, of course, to read another Eva Ibbotson. So all of those. So I wrote every title of every book or author I know I'm going to want to read more from in 2025. And when I added those all up, they took up, would you believe it, 60 spots. So 60 slots were already filled, 60 reservations for books that I want to make time for in 2025. Sometimes I didn't have a particular title by an author, but I know I want to read more of that author. So, I reserved a slot for them. So there were 60 slots altogether. Now, when I divide my books up into 12 months, I know that realistically, I can read maybe 3 full-length adult novels, and then I can read maybe 1 or 2 children's books or girl sleuth novels, and then I can read a variety of short stories, poems, plays, articles, journals, things like that. That's comfortably. Last year and the year before, I was really pushing it because I had like 5 or 6 novels per month on the list. And I know some people are really into the productivity end of BookTube and want to read as many novels and things as they can, and then give their stats at the end of the year and all that. And I'm happy that that is fun for these individuals. That is not my goal. My goal is to read a little bit less, but to read more of what I love. As I said, 60 slots filled up. So judging by how many books I think I can comfortably, realistically read each month in terms of quality and actually enjoying the books, that leaves about 25 slots that are wild cards, okay? I think I can read, I'm going to commit to about 85 works in 2025. So if you subtract 60 from the 85, that leaves 25. So I have 25 slots available for spontaneous reading, for wild cards, for mood reading. If I first and foremost, I want there to be room for spontaneity, because I have so many reserved spots for my favorite authors and series and everything. I've got to have an out of that. If I'm just not feeling it in a particular month, I want to be able to just read spontaneously, just for the joy of reading. And if I hear about an amazing book at the 11th hour, let's say it's next August and I've got a whole list of books I'm scheduled to read. If I hear about a book that I've never seen before and I think it's amazing and I'm getting all excited about it, I am going to drop everything and read that book. Okay, so I have left 25 slots for that kind of reading. Okay, so that is going to include I have a number of challenges here, and there are different book trackers that I've printed out that I use for that purpose. So, for example, I want to read more books from around the world. I love my cozy books. I love my British and American classics. I will continue to read those. I love my vintage children's books and my Golden Age mystery, but I also want to read more broadly. So I do have this book tracking chart called Book Voyage, and so this is to read more books from around the world. This was really successful for me last year. I read books from Korea, China, Australia, Malaysia. I read Lapland literature about the Sami reindeer people. I read Indigenous Canadian literature. Went outside of my comfort zone and I enjoyed it so much. Some of my favorite reads from 2023 and 2024 have been from participating in this book voyage. So I'm going to use this little chart. This is going to go in my white notebook down there. So that's one challenge I'll be doing. And then I'm also going to sort of combine my Newbery Award challenge with Reading Across America, children or young adult books which are set in each of the United States. And I have this little tracker for that with some ideas for different countries, with ideas from different states in the United States where a book is set in that state. So for example, for California, you could read Island of the Blue Dolphins. For Alaska, you could read Julie of the Wolves, etc., etc., etc. So books that are set in different states. So yeah, so that's going to be my Children's Reading Across America challenge. And then I also printed out this book tracker for decades. I would like to read books from different decades. And so those are just some ways, without going into a lot of detail today about each one, those are ways that I am going to try to read more types of books beyond my classic favorite authors, okay? There is one more challenge that I am going to set for myself, and that is one where you get a book tracker from a website called The Book Girl's Guide. And I've talked about The Book Girl's Guide before. Love them. You really do need to check them out. Scores and scores of amazing ideas for books to read, and lots of different challenges, and that's where I printed most of these trackers from. I don't necessarily do the challenges exactly the way the book girls set it up to do, but I do enjoy just like the general concept of the challenges, like the Decades Challenge and the Book Voyage Read Around the World one, etc., etc. They have a new challenge from the Book Girls Guide, which I am going to be doing this year. And that is called the In Case You Missed It Challenge. Why am I doing this challenge? Because I also have a ginormous TBR pile. My physical shelves are absolutely bursting at the seams with books. You can't see it because they're all over this way. I think I'll take some film footage of it afterwards with my phone and share just how abysmally awful this pile is. It's embarrassing how many books I have overflowing on the shelf, on the floor, and that's just one corner of the bedroom. I'm not even showing you the ones that are over on the other side. But in the interest of whittling down my TBR pile, both on the physical shelves, also on Audible, I have over 124 unread audiobooks. I know. Like, what am I buying them for? What am I paying a credit for each month? I'm just sort of like stacking them up. Now, to be fair, I have listened to a lot of audiobooks, but I have 124 that I have not touched. And in addition to that, I also have a number of ebooks on my Kindle reader. So I did notice that a lot of those are more recent reads. And in the interest of getting out of the vintage, classic, golden age bubble that I tend to feel most comfortable in, I would also like to kill two birds with one stone, and that is to whittle down my TBR, physical shelves, Audible, Kindle Reader, what have you, anywhere I have unread books. And also read more modern books. And so I'm going to be doing this In Case You Missed It challenge from the Book Girls Guide. And they give you this lovely tracker here. And basically the idea is to read books that were published in the last 12 years. And so you see, it's so cute. It's like a library checkout card. So they have 2013, 2014, 2015, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now the way they do the challenge is in January you read a book from 2013, in February you read a book from 2014, and so on throughout the year. And they also provide you with lots of titles of books that came out in those years. So I did look at those books, and I also looked at all the books on my shelf. And I thought it would be super, super fun to play a little game. And so to that end, I have purchased and prepared this handy dandy game spinner. I love this. This is not an original idea for me. I got this idea from Erin Megan. Erin Megan is a booktuber. I love her channel. She had a spinner like this, and she used it for different genres, and so she would spin and decide to read a book from a particular genre. So I am riffing off of that idea. Thank you, Erin. And I am going to be using this for the In Case You Missed It challenge. So I am not going to necessarily be going in sequential order of years. I'm going to spin the spinner, and then when it lands on a particular year, or in some cases years, I had to double up on some of these because there's only 10 spaces on the wheel. Oh, and before I forget, there is also the additional challenge from the Book Girls as a bonus, to go back another year and read a book from 2012. So as you can see, some of these months I have 2 years listed on. So we are going to spin the spinner now, and I am going to pick a book with you for January, okay? And after I pick the book for January, I'm going to tell you what the other books are that I'll be reading in the month of January. Okay, so let's do it. Okay. 2023-2024. Okay, so I have to take a look now and see what I have from 2023 or 2024 that I can read in the month of January. Okay, so I'm going to put the spinner down and grab my list here. Let me see. Okay. So for 2023, 2024, I think I'm going to go with 2023. And for 2023, I have 3 or 4 books listed here. On my e-reader, I have A House with Good Bones, and that is by T. Kingfisher. And I know nothing about that. I know that T. Kingfisher writes fantasy and some maybe cozy horror. I've never read any T. Kingfisher, so I'm not really sure. I also have, let me find it here. I have, The Black Feathers by Rebecca Netley. I don't actually know much about this either. Let me take a look. Okay, it says, Where Ghosts Tread, Black Feathers Fall. When Annie marries widower Edward Stonehouse and arrives at Guardbridge, his wind-swept estate on the Yorkshire moors, she thinks she's finally put the darkness of her past behind her, but she is mistaken. Edward's sister Iris still lives in the family home. A taxidermist and a medium, she urges Annie to watch out for black feathers, claiming that they mark the spot where a restless spirit has walked. What happened to Edward's first wife and his young son? Why is his sister so disturbed? And what does this ghostly visitor want with Annie? So this looks to me like a chiller, like a suspense kind of ghost story. And that is called The Black Feathers by Rebecca Netley. And I've had this on my TBR shelf since it came out. So yeah. And I think I actually bought this because it was about ghosts and it was gothic and it was about a woman coming to a house on the windswept moors of Yorkshire. And that's all I really knew about it. So that's a possibility. The T. Kingfisher is a possibility. And then the other choice is, The Frozen River by Ariel Lawhon. I don't know a lot about that either. I think I have this as an ebook. And also on Audible. Yes, I got that on Audible. And I know that is it's a novel, and it's been getting very good reviews. And actually, someone here on BookTube was just talking about that book. Miriam was talking about that. And I think she really loved it. It was one of her favorite books, I think either for December or 2024, one of those. But I know that it is about a midwife in the 1700s, and it's set in Maine. And so that, first of all, is a very evocative time period. I think it would be so cool to read about a midwife in that time period. And I know there's something about a rape that occurs. There's a trial of some kind. And so, yeah, that sounds fascinating to me. And in fact, I'm going to put you on pause and I'll be back in a second. I have another book I want to get out. Okay, I also have this book that has been on my TBR for ages. And this was a Pulitzer Prize winner. This is nonfiction. And this is A Midwife's Tale, The Life of Martha Ballard, based on her diary 1785 to 1812. I got this on a free shelf at the library, and it won the Pulitzer Prize. And apparently this woman, Laurel, Thatcher, Ulrich, she found the diary of Martha Ballard from the 1700s. She was a real midwife who lived in Maine. And so this author did a bunch of scholarly research, and she basically pieced together every entry in the diary and created this fascinating portrait of this town in Maine in the 1700s. And at that time, Maine was on the frontier of the colonies. So this is the factual account. This is the diary, and that I think that Frozen River, the novel, is based on. So I think I might read this as sort of an accompaniment, like a tandem book to read along with Frozen River. Yes, I think I've decided I'm reading Frozen River. Is it obvious? I still want to read Black Feathers and I want to read The T. Kingfisher, but I'm kind of in the mood since it's snowy and wintry and everything. I think it would be a perfect time of the year for Frozen River. So that is a book I am going to read in January, and I'm going to accompany it with this. And then I will be able to take the In Case You Missed It challenge and fill in that I read The Frozen River for 2023. So yay, 1 month down. So I'll be using the spinner every month to do that. And my rule will be that if I get, let's say I spun this again next month, I could either do 2024 or I could respin because I've already done something from this slot. I just love this little spinner. Listen to the sound. Isn't it lovely? It's so much fun. My son's getting a kick out of it too. He wants to borrow it. And the surface of it, you just erase with a cloth. It's a dry erase board. So you just use dry erase markers for it. Okay, so now let's just chat really briefly about some of the other books that I am considering reading for January. So I will tell you, in terms of classics, I have been trying to chip away at Anna Karenina by Leo Tolstoy. These editions are absolutely beautiful. I have the vintage classics editions for my Jane Austen books. I have some of the Bronte novels in this. I just love these vintage classics editions, and they did come out with vintage Russian classics. So I purchased Anna Karenina, and I also purchased Dr. Zhivago. They're just gorgeous, and they're really superb translations as well. I have been trying to read this. I am up to about page 150. I don't know if it is for me or not. I am really trying to stick with it, and I've been listening to some of it on Audible as well. But so far, I'm not loving it. I'm not really clicking with it. I do appreciate how well written it is, but I don't know. It's kind of a trudge for me. So I will try to keep going with this. I may not finish it in January, but I will try. And then the other classic that I am interested in reading in the month of January is Willa Cather's Oh Pioneers. I love this little copy. I got this at a library sale, and this is a Reader's Digest copy, and it comes with this little insert that tells you about the book and about Willa Cather. And this edition has beautiful illustrations in it. I think I paid $1 for this book. Let me just find one of the woodcuts to show you. And I just think the sort of rough-hewn woodcuts, the starkness of the black and white, goes so well with the novel. And here's a picture of a sod house. Isn't that beautiful? And I know that this starts out in winter, in January. I'll read the first sentence. It says, "One January day, 30 years ago, the little town of Hanover, anchored on a windy Nebraska tableland, was trying not to be blown away. A mist of fine snowflakes was curling and eddying about the cluster of low drab buildings huddled on the gray prairie under a gray sky." So very evocative. I've always wanted to read O Pioneers and also My Antonia. So I thought that January would be a perfect time to attempt that. So we'll see how that goes. And then for my Newbery Award Challenge, and also for the Read Children's Books Across the USA Challenge, I am going to be reading Miracles on Maple Hill by Virginia Sorensen. I am so in love with this hardcover edition. It's just so beautiful. I love the vintage artwork, and you can see this is set in winter as well. There's a picture of the author on the back. I found this for a very reasonable price on eBay. They do have more modern paperback editions you can get on Amazon as well, but I just fell in love with this cover. I don't know much about this either, except that it won the 1957 Newbery Award. And I just have a little summary here on a piece of paper, so I'm just going to read that to you. It is about a girl named Marley, and her father has just returned from the war. He's suffering from mood swings and depression and seems to be tired all the time. He was a prisoner of war, and he's returned home, and he's having a rough time. And Lee, Marley's mother, moves the family to Maple Hill, a town where the children's grandmother once lived, so that her husband will not suffer as much as he would in the city. And in Maple Hill, apparently they get to know the neighbors, and this is just about their lives and things, how they improve slowly, and their life on Maple Hill. That's everything I know about it. I do know that it is based on real people and real events from the author's life, people she knew, I think. I'm not positive about that, but I think that's accurate. So that will be my Read Across the United States and Read Newbery winners for January, and that's Miracles on Maple Hill by Virginia Sorensen. And by the way, it is illustrated by Beth and Joe Crush, so they did that wonderful cover illustration. Yeah, so there's that one. And then in addition, I'm reading another vintage book from, I don't know what year it was written in, but it is by Dorothy Maywood Byrd. And a while back on my channel, in fact, several times, I've talked about her mystery, The Black Opal. And so this is another vintage book, and it is called Granite Harbor, also by Dorothy Maywood Byrd. I love this one too. Is that not just marvelous? And look, it continues on the back there. They're skiing. So this is about a girl named Terry Blake, and she was a very popular teenager in Texas. I'm going to guess the 1940s from the way this looks to me. But then she has an accident, and she's not seriously hurt, but it spooks her. And she's very skittish from that point on. Well, then her family moves to Marquette, Michigan, to a place called Granite Harbor. And it's very wintry. She's trying to make friends. She's feeling very skittish. She's feeling very unsure of herself. And I think this is another novel about becoming happier again and becoming better adjusted and getting her old groove back, and skiing and doing snow sports in the snowy north in the wintertime. So I don't think it's a mystery of any sort. I'm not absolutely positive, to be honest with you. I want to see when this was published, 1944. So I'm really looking forward to this. And if any of you are interested in this copy, I think it is available on Amazon. This is not vintage. This is a republication that was done. And there's a bunch of copies of these for a very reasonable price available on eBay as well. So if anyone is interested in reading Granite Harbor, it won't be too hard to get a copy of it. I don't know if it's good or not, never read it, but it's Dorothy Maywood Byrd, so I really want to continue reading her work. And I think she has 3 novels total. But yeah, so that's Granite Harbor. And then finally, I'm also going to be listening to and reading Brother's Keeper by Julie Lee. And this book has gotten very high praise and is also set in the snow in the winter between North Korea and South Korea. And this will fit in well with my book voyage, Read Around the World Challenge. And I'll just read you what it says here. Can 2 children escape North Korea on their own? North Korea, 1950. 12-year-old Sora and her family live under an iron set of rules. No travel without a permit, no criticism of the government, no absences from communist meetings. Repeat slogans: don't trust your neighbors, don't speak your mind, you're being watched. There is no hope for escape until war breaks out between North and South Korea. Suddenly there is chaos and everyone is fleeing. The family's plan to get to freedom is simple. They will walk hundreds of miles, very simple. They will walk hundreds of miles from their tiny mountain village to the South Korean city of Busan. But when a bombing changes everything, Sora must get herself and her 8-year-old brother Young-soo to South Korea alone. Across rivers, over mountains, around enemy soldiers and border guards, and even through Pyongyang itself, all while staving off frostbite and starvation. Can 2 children survive 300 miles of war zone in winter? Haunting, timely, and beautiful, this harrowing novel, inspired by the experiences of the author's mother, offers readers a glimpse into a vanished time and a closed nation. This was a Junior Library Guild selection. So I have this on audio, but I also have the physical copy of it. I've heard nothing but good things about it. I know nothing about the Korean War other than watching the old TV show MASH. So I'm looking forward to learning more about that and reading this story of bravery and escape. And I don't know about you, but I think January 2025 is a wonderful time to read a story about people who are fleeing oppression and looking for refuge in another country in order to be free and to live their life. So, yeah. So, Brother's Keeper by Julie Lee. I'll be really looking forward to this. That is it for me today. I hope you have stuck with me this whole time. I have oodles of other plans, obviously, too, because here I am saying how simple I want to keep it, and yet, you know, I hope I haven't overwhelmed you with all of my personal challenges and plans. But these are more challenges that I'm setting for myself about ways that I want to read. And I just love my little white binder and all of my different challenges. I will 3-hole punch all of those book trackers for the various challenges, including the In Case You Missed It challenge, and put that in here along with my other work. And I'm looking forward to making another video soon. I've got lots and lots of ideas for future videos, but I'm just going to be reading a little bit less, a little slower, a little more luxuriously, and really taking in each book. So I won't be holding up as many books in future videos, but I hope the ones that I am holding up are good quality and enjoyable for you to hear about, and that maybe you'll pick up a couple copies of them, different books that I suggest as well. Hope you're having a wonderful January. Happy New Year. And as usual, we will see you again real soon. Bye-bye.